Hey everybody, paws up! Alright, well guess what? We're getting down and dirty today. We're going to be grooming. Let's get started. Alright, well before we get Beryl up on the table, let's go ahead and show you some of the tools that you'll need. I don't want you to feel intimidated. I do have a vast amount here, but I was a groomer. I had a grooming salon for several years back in New Jersey a while back, so quite a while back actually. So I do still have a lot of equipment that I use to groom my own dogs because, you know, I have my Spaniels and they require grooming, so I've kept most of my grooming equipment. So please don't feel intimidated. You can get away with some fairly basic stuff, and I'll kind of go over that as we go through the different items, okay? So first off, you want your shears, okay? And I have a couple different kinds. I have a longer and a shorter straight blade, and they're straight blades because straight on both sides, okay? I have, these are called thinning shears, and you'll notice they look a little funny because there's like teeth in the blades. This is a double teeth, and that's a single tooth. It's only on the one side, and then you got a straight blade on the other side. I use both of them for different times. And then I also have, it's a straight blade, but if you notice, it's got a curve in it. And you'll use that to go around a face, you know, if you're doing a cute, like a Bichon, and you want like a nice rounded head and stuff like that, that arc really helps you get those angles so it's not chop, 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 chop. Same thing for around the feet. You use that angle to kind of help give you that nice rounded foot on for the paws. Obviously a good comb. Guys, I don't care, most of your dogs, you shouldn't even use a brush, okay? Seriously, most dogs don't even bother with a brush. You want a comb. The reason I say that is because even with these metal bristle brushes, you can easily, let's just say that ring is a mat, okay, down on their leg or something. Those bristles are gonna go right up over it, and it's not even gonna catch that mat. And understand something very crucially here, mats start at the base. By the time you see them on the surface, that poor baby is in so much pain because that hair is being pulled constantly, all right? Now the difference with this, if you use a comb and you're combing, guess what? That gets stuck. It gets caught on that because it's reaching down all the way to the skin, and it's not a soft bristle. These bristles, even these metal ones, they'll flex and they'll move and they'll go right up over stuff. These, they're not going anywhere. Definitely use a comb, okay? Yes, you can brush, but if you have a dog that, okay, your beagles, you can obviously use a brush. Something short-haired like that. Your longer hair and all the breeds that have that continuous hair growth, even like your shepherds that have that thick undercoat and a husky, comb way better because that undercoat will mat on them. And then you're gonna find yourself in a situation where you're gonna have to take them to someone like me, a groomer, and guess what? You're gonna get your dog back and it's gonna be shaved if that groomer has a heart. And the reason they do that is because to demat that dog is gonna create extensive pain for that dog. And those of us that have a heart and care and are true advocates for your pet, not meaning to sound mean, but we kind of don't care about you. We care about your pet. And I would tell my customers that all the time. I'm like, sorry, you and I might go round and round and round with certain things. I'm not gonna be cruel to your pet. I'm that dog's advocate. And I'm gonna try to help teach you and educate you on why I am choosing to do it a certain way. You can come in there and tell me, well, I want it to be like this, that, and the other, and you know what? Your dog's hair may not allow for that. Or you may bring me in a matted dog and like, oh, he's just got a couple tangles. Well, guess what? Because you've been doing them with this, so I either hand him back to you looking like a weed whacker got him, where he's like long hair here, short hair, long, short, or I'm just gonna do the kindest, easiest thing for the pet and you once you get past the shock and shave that dog down. I know it's controversial, people don't like it, but guess what? You have to be able to get these clippers, which is the next tool I'll go over. You have to be able to get that underneath the mat because we had to be able to get that clipper through the hair. You can't get it through a mat. It has to go underneath it. So if it's that tightly matted, guess what? That's how short your dog is coming back. Okay? Food for thought. All right. invest in a nice metal-toothed comb. They've got them at all the pet stores and Walmart even. So, okay, next tool is the clipper. I obviously have a nice, you know, grooming one, but they do have them in the pet stores and stuff, and you can get them they have the stronger motor, more geared for grooming as opposed to like your own hair. Our hair is not nearly as dense. Even if you got super thick hair, it's not per square inch, that's not nearly as dense as what a dog's would be, okay? So along with the clipper, you're gonna have different size blades. Now that goes, you may not even need this. For your dogs like, well, a shepherd, you might wanna get some of the longer hair out between the paws, same with the huskies, and clean back, do a sanitary trim on them. And if that's the case, you only need a size 10 on the blades, okay? Because that's going to make nice and short, going to give you a good sanitary cut, and that's down by their private area and by their bum and, you know, in their feet where they get long, crazy stray hairs. You'll use that same size blade for the type of dogs that also have like the longer hair, like the Spaniels, that their hair continuously grows, or your Yorkies or Maltese and Bijans and Shih Tzus and all those fun things. I mean, obviously I'm not going to go through all the different haircuts. I'm only going to give you a brief synopsis here on and examples based on the dog I have here in front of me, which is going to be a Spaniel, okay? We're going to bring Beryl up here in just a minute. We're going to do a basic puppy cut on him. Now, I know like when you see the dog shows, those haircuts are usually not conducive for regular everyday home life if you're not going to be on top of that dog combing constantly, people. I'm not even kidding you. You're going to be combing that. If you do have a Maltese and you want it full length, ask some of my old customers, you're combing that dog's hair more than you're combing your own. Okay, so if you want a nice little fluffy dog that you're just going to have at home with you and love on and everything like that and be a big old couch potato with you and watch TV, you're going to want to just put it into a little puppy cut. Puppy cuts can go shorter length all the way up to, you know, where they're kind of fluffy and still, and that would be based on the size of the blade. For Beryl, we're just going to do a 4, and but we're going to use a 4 for his. And then I also have for the top of his head and down his neck, we're going to be using a 7 blade. So you're going to see me changing out blades quite a bit here. Now, one thing I do want to mention, super important, guys, you can easily burn your dog and not even realize it, okay? Super important. I have multiple blades here for that reason, because I don't like to use the spray, but you can. It's called Clipper Cool. You can actually get this even in like a Sally's Beauty Supply or any of the other you know, pet stores or anything like that. And it's just it's an aerosol that just, you spray it on the blade when it gets hot, and you give it a minute and let it cool down, and this kind of acts as an accelerant for cooling of the blades. You can use this. For me, I just prefer to go ahead and grab a new blade that's nice and cold, and even then I'm having to rotate through, and once in a while I use that. With the nails, depending on how willing he's going to be, how much of a willing participant, I just have 2 different ones, because if I'm struggling with one or if I need to get into like a tighter corner, I'll use a smaller one. But again, I like these scissor kind or clipper kind. I don't like the ones with that blade that slides. I've had tremendous issues with those. We won't even get into that. You can watch that on the nail trim video, but these are the ones that I prefer. Have a nice spring action that opens right back up, and you know, you're not going to get jammed up with these. Along with your nail clippers, you're going to want to make sure you have some styptic powder or a styptic stick, okay? What you're going to use that for is if you do happen to, and it happens all the time, don't be scared. It's okay. You're not a bad owner. If you did it, you're fine. Us groomers do it all the time too, okay? Sometimes you get that vein that's in the nail. It's called the quick. And you just clip up a little bit too far. You know, we'll usually kind of start at the end and work our way up and look for that little tiny bullseye. Some dogs it's more obvious than others. Obviously, it's easier with a dog that has white nails. But even then, believe me, poor Beryl, he's gotten it before. you just get just that tiny bit too close and here comes that little bit of blood coming out. So this will coagulate the blood, and all you would do, hopefully I won't need to use it today, but it's just a powder, okay? See, it's just a powder there. And this is a big, huge bottle that I have, but you would just say, pretend like that's that nail that we just clipped and it started to bleed. Just grab a pinch of that and stick that nail right into the pinch. Hold it for about 3-4 seconds, and then you'll be able to let go, blow it off, you know, clean the hair around it, and then continue on. And you know, you don't want to, if there's a clump in there because it's like from the blood, just let it sit there for a minute, okay? And just, you know, get the hair out away from it, and then just leave it alone, and then continue on, and then you can go back and clean it up a little bit better later. But that will immediately stop the blood by coagulating it for you. The nail polish remover, you can get these at any Sally Beauty Supply or any other beauty supply. And instead of putting nail polish remover in there, put your ear cleaning solution in there. And you just use these little cotton swabs, and you can just push it down like that. And instead of being dry, it'll be one hand use, because you're going to have one hand on the dog almost always. And it makes it nice and wet, and you can get in there and clean those ears. One thing that's important is, you know, if you do try to groom your dog on the counter, if it's small enough, or a table or something like that, try to tether them, okay? I don't want any of you to have to ever experience having a broken limb on the dog because they jumped off, and those little teeny bones, they break really easy. So this is why I'm like, oh my gosh, you're hanging my dog. No, 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 no. It's basically, it's a slip knot. Same thing like a choker collar, and I will have that on Beryl, and it makes it so he kind of helps keep him right here. It's still very important that even if when you do have him tethered, you keep an eye on them. Do not walk away from that dog. Do not turn your back on that dog. Have your equipment, everything you need in front of you before that dog goes on that counter or on that table with you, okay? Because that dog can still come over here and step off the table, and now he is hanging himself because you've got that weight there and it came off the table. I want you all to be very, very careful, okay? The grooming tables are nice because you got that right there, but you can latch that onto your cabinet. You know, if you have a little hook, and you can latch onto your cabinet, or if anything else, you can just latch it onto, or somehow to just kind of keep them tethered, okay? Help keep them tethered. And then of course, have some treats. Like we just got a few little treats here for him. He hates being groomed, not nearly as much as he hates being dried. I've already went ahead and bathed him and blew him out, because you're gonna have your best results with your haircut that way. The hair's all nice and clean and standing on end. If you try to, especially if you're using the clippers, you're not gonna get through a dirty dog. You really need to make sure they're clean. And if the dog, say you just rescued a dog and they are matted to high heaven and they're filthy, and you have to shave that poor baby down where they look like they have nothing but peach fuzz left, that's okay. You're gonna have long and short spots. You might have to go back over them after you clean them. Every now and then, in an extreme situation, you do, if there is severe matting, you do have to go ahead and clip first using the clipper. And then of course there's bows if you want to use some, you know, fun, well, holidays are coming up, so we've got some fun holiday bows here, and we'll see when we get to the end if we're gonna put them in him or not. So that's kind of the brief summary on the equipment that you'll be using. So I'm gonna go get Beryl and get him on the table, and then we'll take you through the steps on tackle different parts of their body, and if you go with the hair, against the hair, and all that other fun stuff. We'll be right back. So he's kind of tangly, and we're just working our way through some tangles here. He's got a little bit of his breakfast in his ears, and some lint and everything else from the towels. So that comb, see, like he looks like it is short, but it'll grab every little tangle and snarl. You definitely want those to use those combs. So go ahead and give him a good comb and brush or brush out first, so you know you're dealing with no tangles, and it'll make your life so much easier as you're going through with the clippers and the scissors. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through his ears here, and then we'll show you the other spots. Alright, so also I just wanted to mention before I move on to the legs, when you are doing the long hair of the ear, don't just, you're pulling the ear. Try to hold the leather of the ear, the bulk of it right at the base, And then you're still going to be pulling on the skin here, but you're not pulling, you know, like all the way away from the head, which is way more painful for them. So you want to just kind of like secure that ear, let your hand stay open like that, lay the ear on it, and comb down. Okay, so I've gone ahead and that's going through nice and smooth now. It wasn't before because he had all those little minis trying to start, but that's because I was blow drying him. All right, so now we're going to go on. We can go down his back. He's not too crazy on his neck. Not too bad. But again, you just want to kind of make sure that's all. And yeah, feels good, huh? So I'm using the narrower teeth to go down his body. And with the ears, or anything that's like thick and long, I'll start off with the wider part of, you know, the wider spaces on the comb, and then move on to the smoother, or the narrower. Because then that'll catch things that the wider one wouldn't, and then it's just like polishing something. You go from wider to, you know, coarser to smoother. So same thing, same premise. So we'll just go through his whole body, make sure that he didn't get any little nasty snarls. Oh, thanks. You want to do your arm? Okay. And we'll go, hi. He's okay. Make sure you get in those armpits, guys, because guess what? That's one of those hot zones for the mats. And he's got that long hair. We'll just make sure we have everything. As you comb and go over every inch of the body, it's another good way of just kind of keeping an eye on them and checking them. I mean, was many times my groomers, and as well as myself, had caught different things, different growths or whatever that needed to be addressed. Sorry, baby. That needed to be addressed by a vet. So, you know, we just make the owners aware of something that we found that could be unusual. And do the back of his hocks. He doesn't love this, but see, look at all that hair. Look at all that. He is like a woolly mammoth. That's another thing. Try not to lift, you know, their hips are not quite as agile, I guess, as ours. So when you are dealing with the back legs, try not to, kind of like stay at that knee and just bring that foot straight back, and then it gives you a good view of what you're doing back there. We'll just make sure he's all combed here. Do you see that tiny, tiny little tangle right there? That is actually the beginning of a mat, guys. It can be just that tiny, and that starts right at the skin level. See, look, that's where the hair came out of the skin. Look how tight it is up against there. Meanwhile, all that other hair was there and exposed. You didn't even know that was there. And if I went through it with a brush, I would never have found it. I only found it because I was going through with a comb. That tiny little thing will become a mat. And that's exactly what I wanted to show you. All right, so he's all combed out, and we've been starting around his feet. And so, okay, any dog that has fringes back here, if you want to leave some of those fringes, which I like to leave that so he doesn't look completely like a German short-haired pointer as opposed to an English Springer Spaniel once I have him into a puppy cut. You would just make the hair come down, and they have that, let me show you before. See, they have this little heel back here, okay? They have that on their fronts, not on their backs, and that's like their little heel, okay? So you're just gonna, if your dogs are really muddy, little boys and girls like mine, Beryl is, I want everything from that heel down gone. I don't want the long hair there. If I was trimming for a show coat, I would leave that all and blend all that long hair right into the foot, so he's got a beautiful gait, you know, or walk, stride. Okay, so I'm just going to take all that down, and I'm going to go to where my finger is just covering that heel. Tight. Okay, and I'm going to come, you want to sit? Okay, you can sit. And I'm going to just come right across that and cut that bulk off. And that'll kind of give me a starting line. And then I can go, by all means, adjust it. And make sure you cover with your knuckle, or your finger, make sure you cover that heel so you don't go and cut that on them, because that's going to be a big vet bill. Okay. Now, what I'll do later is I'll come down with the clipper, and I will, he's getting impatient. I'll go ahead and clip that out later. But for right now, we're just going to continue around the feet stop. So you're going to back brush. See, they get all this hair in between those feet. Stop it. I call them his Grinch toes. So you get all that long hair. We're just going to back brush it to raise it up. I like a nice soft looking foot, but if you don't have these thinning shears, you can just use your regular straight shears and stay back, bud, and cut up, okay? You are going to have a little more choppy of a foot, and you'll see a little more toe definition if you do the straight blade, but that's totally fine. You know what I'm saying? You do what you can, and it's not going to hurt the dog at all to have, you know. Now I would take this whole, you know, me personally, I'm going to use my thinning shears. I prefer going all the way around the foot. It gives it a much softer appearance. It does take longer. By all means, it takes way longer. But it gives it a softer appearance. And I can even go in and soften up those cut lines. And I'll still see toes, but it won't be, you know, nearly as sharp. But so afterwards, after you get the majority of the hair, I like to leave this on the edges of their toes longer. If you leave the hair longer on the end of the toes and till the point of after cutting those nails, look at those Freddy Kruegers. I've been leaving them long. I've let them go kind of crazy, guys, so it would be a little more dramatic for the cut. You know, if I just did a quick little tipping and trimming, it wouldn't be nearly as visible and easy for you to see, so I figured I'd let it grow out a little crazy. But see, those nails will interfere, but after you get the nail cut down to the length you want, then you can trim that hair right up to the nail length, and you'll have a nice, beautifully rounded paw. All that woolliness underneath there, you're going to take that clipper, and I have the 10 blade on there, okay, the size 10, and you don't want to go like this. You don't want to go jabbing in at the paw. See how the paw kind of like lays flat like that? Start at the toes. You might get caught up on the toenails. And you just bring it towards you. If that foot is behind you, behind them like that, it'll be way easier for you. And it's a little less stressful on them. It's not nearly as scary. And you will get hung up on the toenails. You got to kind of negotiate around them a little bit, and just bring it straight on back. And you're going to be taking all that hair anyway. And now I can move the longer hair out of the way, and just right from underneath the heel, straight down. Go into the leg and straight down, just like that. Make sure you got your line, cover your heel. Hi, bud. You want to make sure that they're not trying to lick your clipper. And again, just kind of stick straight. You don't want to go stabbing into it. You can cut the webbing in between their toes. Hi! And you bring that hair flush with the pads. You don't want to go digging down in between it, unless you are professionally trained, okay? So it'll just kind of be nice and flat there. It'll expose their pads. You'll have a lot smaller gushy feet marks, paw marks, when they come in from outside. Make sure that you do always keep an eye on how warm that blade's getting. You don't want to burn these babies. This one's starting to get warm. So I'm going to go ahead and sometimes you got to go different directions. They got little calics on their feet. So I'm going to go ahead and change out my blade. If I didn't have a blade to change it, when I start feeling it get warm is when I would spray it with the clipper cool and let it be running, and you spray it down in between the blades, because that's where the heat is, from those blades rubbing against each other down into the teeth. Now we got a nice cool blade again. Sometimes those clipper blades will get louder as they get hotter. I'll give you a little indication, but you just kind of always feel it. Now this back here, for anybody that's got those fun fluffy hocks, what we like to do is scissor them, and I would use my thinning shears mostly, and especially if you're wanting a more professional, softer look instead of harsh lines, kind of make sure you kind of comb from one side to the other, and you can go down with your straight shears, comb back to the other side, all those crazy long ones, Get all of that off, anything that's going crazy. And then I would just thin shear. I'm using with the double because I've got a lot of bulk I want to take out of that. Look, that's way too fluffy, and that is a mud magnet right there, guys. And see, it's kind of neat because it'll take off some of the hair, but not all of it. So this is another spot where again, it's going to take some time, but if you're wanting a super soft look to them, this is your better option. And blow, 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 guys. You know, if you sat there and put that down and wipe it away, you're going to be here forever. Just blow that hair away because it will build up, and you just want it to be thinned out so it lays nice on the leg without it getting too crazy. If you don't have thinning shears, by all means, you can use, again, the straight shears, and you would just kind of like lift it up, okay? And you're going to go down, just like that. So kind of, it'll help it lay naturally, okay? You don't want to necessarily go up, you know, cutting up against it. You can, but it does look better if you can even use the comb. See, comb it up, and then you can just cut it down like that. All right? If you have any long stragglies hanging over here by the bulk of their pad there, you can do that. But you're just looking for a nice smooth edge, you know. You don't want them looking super straggly or crazy or anything like that. That's where the thinning shears do help. But again, you don't have to have thinning shears. You don't have to go through the expense of having a ton of different equipment and making yourself crazy that way financially. So we're going to go ahead and back brush the rest of the toe, all the rest of the feet, and get that all trimmed up, and then we'll show you as we're cutting the nails. Alright, so we've got it all, you know, everything's all nice and trimmed. There's a little bit that needs to be done there, but now I have most of that hair out of the way so I can see what I'm doing and go ahead and get those nails cut. And you want to just take those tips off and go till where you see the bullseye. See, even in the white you can still see that. See that little tiny round bullseye in there? I'm stopping because now I'm starting to hit the quick. So if you want more information on nail trimming, we've gone ahead and done a full video just of that, way more in depth, and we'll put a link up there for you. I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of his nails done, and then we will show you the rest of the grooming on the body. Shears and my round nosed shears, straight blade shears, but again, by all means you can use just your regular straight ones. And so, you know, we've already back combed the hair, back brushed the hair, and cut off all the excess. Now we went ahead and cut the nails. We cut the nails so he won't have as pointy, and we'll just go like that, and see? So you're only taking off a little bit, but it just kind of takes off that pointiness of the toe and gives them a nice round foot. And some dogs will have more round feet than others. You know, Shih Tzus, they end up with cute little round balls. And this just allows you to get in nice and tight. And yep, they're going to step, they're going to kick, they're going to do all kinds of things because this is ticklish to them. Then you just go around and make sure everything's all nice, neat, and trim, and blends in nicely, and you don't have anything crazy hanging out. You can trim back around their that large pad in the back. And see, it's all nice and tight up around there. And if you did have any long crazy ones, by all means you can just go down. Don't go up into it, just cut down. That's pretty much the feet. You just get all the wooliness off, then handle the nails. If they have the long feathers in the back, get that stuff back here, all that extra length gone. And then after you cut the nails, then you round out that foot. And you got nice, pretty rounded feet. That front one looks a little crazy still. And it'll seem like you're hardly cutting anything, but you do. And again, thinning shears work best because you'll get a way softer look instead of like a really choppy. And the breed of dog you're doing, or the mix of breeds, that's, you know, in your baby will really determine on how that paw is going to come out. And you could have two Shih Tzus side by side. One will have great thick hair and you'll have a gorgeous round foot. And the other one's going to look more like, kind of like a Spaniel, where you'll have some toe definition, but you know, it won't be too sharp. So, all right, well, we're going to move on here, and I'm going to change my blade out to one that's more conducive for his head and neck. So I'm going to move on to number 7 for him. So now I've changed blades, and I'm going to start over here so you guys can see. So I have a 7, and I'm just going to go straight down his head, back onto his neck. And this, we're going to go down his ears also, and I might even, if I decide I don't like the way the 7 looks, the reason I chose a 7, I normally do a little bit shorter than that, is because I'm leaving his body longer because it's winter time, and he's not a show dog, so I don't really worry about the aesthetics of a lot of it. You'll see Spaniels get held with their ears up over their face, and it's not so you can't block, so they can't see, it's so you can see. And you come just to where that chest bone is, right there. Come down their neck. And you would do this in a Shih Tzu as well, if you wanted to. And give them a cute, you want to make sure that neck is nice and short, at least the underneath part. And then blend the rest in. Hold on, bud. And you go down. I like to go with the fur, at least for puppy cuts. You know, if you're doing show cuts, then you're doing all kinds of fun stuff. You're going against the fur, way different, you know, cuts. But, okay, I'm going to move this noose up onto the top of his head and the front of his ear, because I need to get behind his ear. So I didn't actually take it off of him, but it allows me to see everything I'm doing. And that 7 just doesn't want to take off as much as I'm wanting it to. I might have to switch out blades, but I really just want them to be soft and woolly and warm for the winter. And this just takes the neck, you know, just the neck. And we're going to go down the body, you stay, with a little longer length. You know, and you're not jabbing, you're just kind of letting that clipper lay, see, and just allowing that blade to slide along the skin of the dog. Alright, so I've gone ahead and, you know, trimmed up around his head, his neck, the tops of his ears. And the only reason I do that, because that's kind of what the Spaniels do, even though I'm not showing him at all, because he's not show worthy, but I'll take off that first third to a half of his ear, and I'll make sure that's blended into almost the same length of his head, just because I'm just keeping him in a, you know, just kind of a pet coat as opposed to a show coat. And then I will go comb the ear hair straight down and just go across. And then hopefully when their ear fluffs back out, you got a nice straight line. Sometimes you gotta do a little, with the calyx and stuff, you gotta do a little bit of fine tuning. And we'll show you how you go down the body and the back and the legs. Now, puppy cut, like if you go into a groomer and you say, okay, hey, I want a puppy cut, that just kind of means you kind of want it short all over, you know. Obviously they're gonna do a head differently if it's a Bichon or a Maltese or something like that, or if it's another dog other than a Spaniel. Spaniels are supposed to have that, you know, a really short, tight head that blends down into the ears and fluffy on the bottom. So I'm just gonna take this 4, go straight down him. This looks like it's not taking off very much off of him. He's so silky. I think I want more than off of that. And you're just gonna wanna keep going straight down the back. Right. He's very calicky and curly, as you can tell. They're everywhere. That's why I normally like him a little bit shorter. I'll usually do him with one blade length shorter than this. I'll usually go to a number 5 for him. And I'll go down the sides of the tails with the with the length I want on the body, but I don't necessarily go down the top of it. I'm gonna scissor that to give it a more natural look, but you can come down the bum, on the sides, and go down the legs. You're gonna come all the way across their back, you know, and you're gonna go down to about half, you know, follow their natural hairline. Like his kind of goes back only that like top very bit, and then it starts going down. You want to go with their fur, otherwise you're gonna have really massive chop marks. And even then, when you do go with the fur, you can still have chop marks, especially if they're calicky like this guy. And I wouldn't be going to this extent with the cutting if I were showing him, if he were a show dog. So don't get confused there. For sure, we're just doing some maintenance, you know, giving you some ideas and pointers on how to groom your own dog. Each breed is going to be a little different, you know, the requirements and their style and the outcome is going to be different. So you may not want to groom your Shih Tzu the exact same way you're going to groom a Spaniel, but it gives you the idea on how to do it. You know, if you are just doing it yourself for, you know, pet needs and aesthetics, stick with the growth of the hair, and make sure you go all over. If you find, you know, you might have some calic that just, it's growing so crazy that you kind of have to do like a zigzag on them, and that's okay. You can do that. We're just going to neaten him up. I'm not going to let him have any crazy long feathers. We are so active in our family. We are out rock hounding and camping and doing all kinds of stuff, and we just need him to be as neat and clean as possible because, quite honestly, I don't want a muddy, soaking wet dog in the car. I want to be able to towel that baby down. On the inside of the leg, I'm like, ooh, yeah, Angie, it's really easy to go on the outside. You want the inside of the leg. You can make sure you have a good firm grip. Lift their leg up to about that far. You don't want to go any further than that. And you can go underneath and get some of those longer hairs on the inside of the leg. And again, you're keeping that blade really nice and straight up against the skin. Don't come down the back of their leg like that. They have some really thin skin back here, and you can easily cut that skin. So you can just want to go back and do that over with a blade, or you can do it straight and not come down that really thin point right there. On the bum, straight down on each side. Then I want to show you a trick. You don't ever, when you take, like, look, you got all of this. Let's turn that off for a second. Grab that tail, lift it up. Some dogs are going to be more woolly around the rear end than others. So I'm going to go ahead, now that I've cleaned his rear end, I'm going to change off my foreblade because it's too long, and I'm going to pick one of my 10 blades. It's a size 10. It's way short. It's the same one you went around the, you know, like in the pads of the feet. Guys, it's very important that you be very careful around the rectum. When you lift up that tail, that bum's gonna pucker, okay? You can make sure you know where it is. You grab the tail and you go up only, okay? That's going to expose the underside of the tail. But now here's the really tricky part, guys. Here's his rectum right under here. You can hardly even see that. You wouldn't know if you hurt him or not, and cut that on them. You can cut them here. You're gonna hold that tail, that rectum is gonna be puckered. If they're a dog that has this nice little color patterning, you go right into just where it starts being the opposite color, that black or white, whatever it is, and go like that. This is when I want you to scoop. I want you to go in there with the point of those clippers. Go in and scoop away. Don't go like this at the rectum. You will cut that baby's bum. Out here on the outside of it and scoop away. Out here on the outside, scoop away. Now look what? You can see that bum. And guess what? You're not going to have little poopy tassels either. You got to kind of make sure that they're calm because this is a little sensitive area for him, okay? It might take a little bit of patience. I can take and scissor this little tassel off, or I could leave it. Some people leave a tassel on their dog's tail. Like I said before, you don't go down with the clipper down the top of the tail. You're gonna have too harsh of a tail. So you're just gonna make sure you go like this. You can back comb it, get anything that's really long and fluffy. And see, you're just gonna take off the excess. That's all, just that. And the same thing like with the end here where you got that tassel. I could just cut it off and it's gonna look, you know, like a really harsh blunt cut. But if you just thin shear that, it will give you a much softer appearance. And it's okay if it comes into a little point, that's just natural. And that's just gonna be how they look. By all means, you know, move that skin around, like that skin will swirl around that tailbone. Okay, so then now you got a nice rounded, natural looking tail. It doesn't look too hacked up. But again, by all means, if you don't have thinning shears, you can totally do all of that with just the regular shears. But instead of like cutting across, try to cut with the way that the hair is going. You know what I'm saying? So if I was gonna back comb it on this side, is there? Oh, there is a little bit of there, you know, and I'll just go like that, and I'll cut the way the hair is going and growing. And then this way it'll help you have a little smoother appearance and you'll be good to go. All right, now we're gonna move on to his penis. Two different ways. You can go after it with a scissor. I suggest you don't though. If you have a clipper, it's the better way to do it, and you wanna have at minimum a 10 blade on there. You put the 10 blade on. I'm gonna lift him, guys. All I'm gonna do, hold still. That's it, right there. You just wanna get rid of the peepee tassels, because when he urinates, you'll end up with a big, huge, crusty thing there, and it's okay to have that, you know, around this part of his penis, but you just don't want it right there where the urine is coming out. So you can either grab it like that and do it from the side, you know, if it were on there, just take it like that. You can come up the whole penis shaft like that, clean it up, and just go straight across. Don't jab at it. Just come straight across and clean up the, you know, around there. And then also clean up around, a little bit around the top part. Finally, we're not going to do it with him, but I do want to show you, if you have a dog, beautiful setter or something like that, or a Spaniel, and you're wanting to trim up those feathers and just kind of keep him at a, like this is the length I like to keep him. So he does look like a Springer, but you know, he still is short enough where he's fairly easy for me to manage and keep him clean. You would take your feathers and comb them, get them all nice together. So you hold it straight out like that, allow that arm to come up like that, and you just go straight back and create a nice, solid, straight line, the best as possible. As you can see, he's all herky-jerky and stuff, and he can be a bit of a pain, but I'll just go straight back like that. See, you got a nice straight line, and it tapers down nicely to right into that little heel pad right there. Sometimes with the cowlicks, they don't quite sit quite as nice as the other side does. But you just do that, get yourself a nice line there, and let it go on back. And then when they stand, it'll stack pretty nicely. All right, hold the scissor right up here, and then we'll just kind of go back. That just will kind of soften that. He's got cowlicks coming up this way, so I don't want to cut too deep into that. I don't want to take all that length off, and then he'll have a big divot there. But you just clean that up, go back along there. You can do the same thing on the insides. And then with the armpits, very important, don't ever go in like this or cut with the, you know, just like I was telling you on the back leg, when you extend their arm like this, they get a thin piece of skin right here. You can cut that really, really easily. I want you to have the scissors like this across from it. You lift their leg up, you make sure you see underneath, and you just cut like this and just trim in to their armpit. Same thing on both sides. Get rid of some of that excess hair, and that'll help prevent mats. And there you go. That's well, that's sort of a puppy cut for a Springer at least. But you know, at least it gives you some pointers and some ideas on how to go about handling grooming your own dog. And be kind with them. You know, it's scary for them. They don't always know what you're asking of them, even if they have been groomed before. Everybody has a different grooming technique. So treat them a lot throughout the process. Make sure that you give them treats and love and kisses and hugs, and take a minute to be reassuring. Beryl loves holding hands, so I'll hold one hand, you know, with him. And all right, well guys, thank you again so much for tuning in. We sure appreciate you guys so much. Remember to like and share. Thanks guys, take care.